Hey guys, welcome to Daniel Gian Talk, and today I'll be reviewing the best film, I'm calling it right now, the best film of 2018, and that is Super Deluxe, directed by, I gotta read it, excuse me, Thiagarajan Kumararaja. I'm totally mispronouncing it, I'm butchering it, I apologize. If anybody would phonetically spell it for me in the comments so I can say it properly from now on, because this director is someone that I will be looking forward to each and every time they make a movie. I'll be watching his previous work after this because Super Deluxe was not just a great Tamil film. It wasn't just a great Indian film. It's a great film, period. I loved it from start to finish, although I will say I think I missed the first 5 minutes. I was a little late to the screening, so forgive me, but I pretty much got everything, so, it is what it is. This will be a spoiler review, so if you have not seen the film, stop watching this video. Don't watch anybody's videos. Go out and watch this movie right now. Support it. Give this movie your money. It deserves it. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing piece of cinema. It doesn't hold your hand. It's full of plot twists, but in a good way. Everything's justified. I just freaking love the movie, from the cinematography to the editing to the acting to the direction. It is phenomenal through and through. It might be my favorite Indian film of all time. I mean, Gangs of Wasseypur holds it holds a special place in my heart. But this one is it's a whole nother animal. As the movie was ending, I was saying to myself, India finally has its Pulp Fiction. It's Amores Perros, like this story, this interweaving story that just comes together at the end, and you just feel like, wow, wow. And it does things that those films that I mentioned don't do. And I'll get into that in a second, but I just have to say that I love this film from start to finish. People were referring me to the trailer, and, I never reacted to it because I just, to be honest, you react to enough Tamil films and you feel like you've seen them all. And thank you to Anurag Kashyap, because I follow him on Twitter, and he tweeted about this movie. He tweeted about being basically regretful that he was not involved in the process of this film. Apparently he had an opportunity to either produce it or something, and he turned it down, and he said he'd watched it 3 or 4 times since it was released. And so I was like, wow, there must be something here. And so I saw that it was playing, and I said, fuck it, let's go out and watch it. And so I did. But let's get into the movie. Let's get into the nitty-gritties. So the film covers 4 different narratives. At first it's 3, and then it kind of evolves into 4. So it's not a conventional narrative. There's no exact character development in terms of, goals or obstacles, traditional goals and obstacles, but each character and each scenario does present its own goals and obstacles. So it's almost like 4 movies within one movie that does interweave and connect with each other at certain moments. And you follow the story of, initially, the story of 4 young men, or I think it was, maybe it was more than 4, I don't know, but a small group of young men. They sit down to watch a porn. They all gather together to watch a porn, a 3D porn at that. And we discover that one of the characters' mothers is actually the main star of the film. He proceeds to basically go apeshit. He runs out of the room. He destroys the TV first, and he just leaves. One of his good friends follows him, and that whole series, that whole situation developed into its own thing. The son wanted to go murder the mom because the mom was a whore, as he says, and there's just so many things that interweave. I mean, I feel like I could just regurgitate the whole movie because everything was just so interesting, and I mean that. I mean, you have the rickshaw driver who, cuts him off, and he throws a rock at the kid throws a rock at his window, and then the rickshaw chases him as he's going to get the mom, and then he ends up falling on his own screwdriver that he went to go murder the mom with, which was intense because the movie was so unpredictable by that point that I was like, holy shit, is he going to kill his mom? I genuinely thought he was, and then he didn't. And then that scenario turned into something else because now the mom wants to save the son, of course. And, little did we know, prior to this, we've been following his father. We didn't know that. Who's this preacher? He was saved in a tsunami, and he's basically has this small group of people who believe in him and who trust him, and they basically they want this sea god, I forget the name, to watch over them and protect them, and so when he gets news that his son stabbed himself, his first response was to pray to God. And the mom was like, you're crazy, you know, you need to, you know, you need money, because as you find out, the healthcare system isn't the best if you don't have insurance or you don't have money. I mean, you kind of are screwed. And they weren't willing to operate on her kid. I mean, there was a whole nother thing. And again, that's just one contained story. I'm not even talking about the couple, which was also a fabulous introduction to the whole their situation with the dead body. You know, they walk in and she's hiding the body, and you really don't know why. At least, again, unless it was in that first few minutes that I missed, but I didn't know why at first. But just the way it was set up, you know, the husband comes home, you know, the neighbor's like, hey, I have these extra relatives, can you house them and stuff for now? And they're like, yeah, sure. But little did the husband know, we knew as an audience, as well as the wife, we knew that she was hiding the body, and we didn't know where it was hidden, and we find out it was in the fridge. I mean, it's just, and it's like this Hitchcock moment. This is pure Hitchcock here, which is Hitchcock would always let the audience know things that the certain characters would know, but not your lead, or vice versa. The audience knows something the main character knows, but the villain doesn't know. So like, it's a way for the audience to be actively participating in the moment. And the reason why I say pure Hitchcock is not only did he do that, he would also do things where he would show the bomb underneath the table. You know, if two people were having a conversation and someone had a bomb underneath, he would show that to the audience. That way, the audience knows there's something there. So that's what he did. The director, he showed the body in the fridge. And we were like, oh, fuck, it's in the fridge. The family wants water. The water's in the fridge. I mean, there's comedy there, but also at the same time, it is very Tarantino. It is very Coen Brothers, but it's also uniquely his film. And I enjoyed that. I appreciated that. Because that scenario develops to something else entirely, you know, where these characters ultimately, you know, as I said, there's not traditional character development, but there is character development, that these two characters, a husband and wife, who hate fucking each other, they hate each other's guts, who ultimately end up, I wouldn't say happily ever after, but they do come together at the end. And that was interesting. And I'm not even talking about what I feel like would be the most controversial subject of the film. And it deals with this little boy who's super excited, super fucking excited to see his father come home, because apparently his father left years ago. And, you know, he was excited to finally see his dad again. And the family was kind of telling him, no, he's not coming, this, and this. And finally, the dad shows up. But to everybody's surprise, he wasn't the individual that left all those years ago. He's a new person. He's a woman now. And, you know, there's comedic levity to that. You know, you have the grandpa who thinks that it's a mistress, that it thinks it's the husband's mistress, but in fact it's actually himself. He basically had his surgery to become a woman. He's a transgender woman now. And, you know, well, what I struggled with, and I use quotes because I didn't struggle with this at all, but what I'm curious to know, and I would love for you guys to tell me, you know, how did you guys take this as Indians? Because for me, I'm an American. Right now, the transgender issue is super, super hot button, and, you know, there's a scene where she even says, like, I'd love to use the women's restroom, but I can't. You know, that particular subject is extremely hot and contemporary right now in America, where it's, you know, the conservatives on the right, they don't want that to happen because they fear that the women who were once men will go and molest all the kids and do all this stuff, even though statistically that's not really true. So, like, as an American, like, this is super relevant to me, but I'm not Indian, so like that's why I'm asking you guys. And so I didn't struggle with it. Like, I connected with it. I think I might have connected with it on a different level, but maybe not. But it was just the way it approached the subject matter too. It was so mature. It was so delicate, but yet so in your face. And at no point was there any holding of hands. You know, the director believed that his audience was smart and they weren't stupid. He didn't need to dumb anything down for them. And I appreciated that. Everything was in your face. And sometimes it did make you uncomfortable. I mean, there's a scene in which the cop basically, so the father, who becomes the woman, he takes his son out because the son wants to show his friends basically that his father's real, because his friends would make fun of him, calling him a test tube baby, because the father would never show up to anything because he wasn't there. And so, like, his whole goal right now was to just show his father off to the friends. And, you know, they go throughout the town to go to the school to show the friends, and that's when, the kid gets, basically the kid needs to go to the bathroom, and that's when the bathroom conversation that I mentioned earlier takes place, and the cop walks in on him as the mom's trying to fix his zipper, and so of course it doesn't look right, and the cop starts beating him up, arrests him, and then the police inspector takes advantage of the situation. I mean, he's a rat, he's a piece of shit, he's disgusting, he's vile, he's a despicable fucking human being, and I feel like he probably does represent some part of the police force in India. I'm not saying all cops are like that, I'm not saying that, but there's bad apples everywhere. And I feel like that, it just felt genuine, it felt real, and so he went and basically, I mean, you don't know exactly what happens, but some sort of sexual activities go on behind closed doors, because he's basically like, yeah, he tells the other police officers to go take the kid out to go get some biscuits and tea or something like that, while he handles the mom, excuse me, the father. And that was awkward, because it got really intense, and the way the film builds the suspense and it builds that intensity is through long takes. It has these weird obscure angles sometimes where the coverage isn't traditional, where you have your single and your reverse, and there's certain things where it'll be wide and you see things through doorways, but from a distance. I mean, there's even a shot in the movie where you just see ants going up the wall, and in the background is the family discussing these matters about the husband, and they're all out of focus, and it's very obscure, but yet so motivated. I mean, that shot I didn't think was motivated, but I loved it. I loved the fact that the director was willing to take these chances and just say, you know what? I don't know, life goes on. This is also a part of life, because the movie is about life. That is the theme of the film. It's about life, and it's explicitly stated at the end of the movie, which is actually what I really dug about it, because lately I've been thinking about, the randomness of life, the obscurities of life, going through life, and you drive along a freeway and you see all these cars going by, and each one of those cars has their own life and their own story and their own everything, and that's what this film kind of is. It's kind of like these different little stories that kind of come together and interweave, and that's because that's the planet we live on. That's Earth. That's like this. It's life. It's fucking weird. And speaking of life, there's a huge, huge, huge twist. And for whatever reason, if you've been watching this review and you thought, oh, well, he hasn't spoiled too much yet, now's your time to turn away, because I'm going to get into a heavy, heavy spoiler. There's one scene in particular that really could have derailed the entire film, and I personally think it didn't. I actually think it made the film 10 times better. It cemented the film as a great film, as a matter of fact. And that's when the alien shows up. Yes, the alien. Now, some people might say, yeah, wow, what the fuck? There's an alien here. What is this, a James Cameron movie? I mean, this is supposed to be a grounded humanistic tale, Daniel. You've been talking to me about how it's real, and this is a slice of life and all this shit. But the way the film portrays the alien is in a way that is believable, because why wouldn't there be a goddamn alien on this planet? How the fuck are we supposed to know that there isn't one now? I'm not saying that there's a Men in Black society out there where you have thousands of aliens, but why not? And what I enjoy about what the movie handled about this species, this otherworldly species, is didn't really address it in terms of like going into huge backstory, and I came to this planet at this age, and I did this and this, and you kind of just accept it, and the characters around them, they accept it, around this alien woman. They all accept it. They don't question it. I mean, they kind of freak out a little bit, but at the same time, they're like, all right. I mean, there's even a funny joke where he says, what? You think only aliens go visit America or something like that? Which is funny, because, I mean, obviously, in Hollywood movies, that's the only places where aliens like to go is America, E.T., Independence Day, etc., etc. So, this is like an Indian alien, which is cool. I mean, but I just enjoyed the fact that she just revealed herself. I didn't really enjoy the character design, but it is what it is, and the CGI was a little wonky, but I understand why. I just applaud the fact that it went there, and it had the balls to just say, you know what, I'm going to do this. The audience is either going to accept it or they're not. And I just went with it, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fact that she cloned the friend, that one with the cat shirt on. I mean, all these they're funny, but it happened in like less than 5 minutes, and it never got brought up again. It served what's important. It served the thematics of the film. It served the theme, and that's really, 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 really what's important about this whole film, is that shit happens in life. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And there's just many different ways to go about things, and not one is necessarily more correct than the other. I mean, the film actually explicitly sort of states this at the end. And especially since the boy who stabs himself ultimately gets saved, and you find out that the father, you know, through a long story short, you find out that the father wasn't the only one who survived the tsunami. He kind of lost his faith in God because of the fact that his boy wasn't being saved, despite the fact that he was praying and praying and praying and praying and praying. And he destroys the statue that he's been praying to. And inside the statue, as you find out, is full of diamonds, because it was like from a part of some African ship that sunk, and that's what washed up on shore because it was a tsunami. So in a weird way, he was able to basically pay for his son's surgery that he needed to do. But at the same time, the mother was so unwilling to accept these doctors' reasoning for not doing the surgery that she kept going. And who's in charge? And I'll talk to this person and this person and this person and this person, until finally the doctor was able to just do it for free. And so there's this interesting conversation that happens towards the end of the film where the husband, who was this preacher guy, was like, I don't know what to do. Right when I denounced God, these diamonds came in. Does that mean that God's not real or whatever? And the wife's like, but you know, I don't believe in God, but I prayed for my son, and you know, I was able to help me. And so like, it's this weird thing where, you know, I'm not religious one way or the other on this particular case, but you know, you can make the argument both ways. You know, help me God, help me God, help me God. Fuck you, God. I'm going to throw this down on the floor and it breaks up, and that's God's symbol. You know, that's the sign, if that's what you want to believe. Or, you know, you take the mother's approach. I'm not going to waste my fucking time praying. I'm going to do everything I can as a human being to ensure the safety of my son. And, you know, where did God help me in all that? I don't know, you know. She did it on her own. So I'm just saying that there's these different levels to the film, and I enjoyed it. And I'm not even talking about the husband and wife and how that whole dilemma changed. I mean, those scenes were great too, of them just being together, that dynamic. I mean, she was drop dead gorgeous, but she also could act, which I enjoyed. You know, sometimes the sound was a little wonky because it was ADR'd, but I'm accepting of that because I enjoyed the overall sound design. And not only was the ADR, but you know, you can hear fans in the background, you can hear the city, you can hear these things. And I appreciate that because I've talked shit numerous times about Tamil films not giving a solid fuck about building a sound design. They just give a fuck about score, and they just give a fuck about dialogue. And you know, Ratsasan, I'm looking at you, you know, you fucking suck. There's a shitty fucking terrible job at sound design, but this movie, kudos to that. Kudos to the cinematography. Holy fuck, this has to be one of the most beautiful Indian films of all time, in my opinion, at least that I've fucking seen in the last few years. And not just that, it's one of the best looking films, period. I mean, I've hardly seen a lot of other Indian films utilize the landscape, the colors, their orange buildings, the blue interiors, but also just the way that the colors contrast with one another. You know, they made sure the costumes genuinely contrasted with the rooms that they were in. And it was beautiful, and the transition shots, the fact that the camera was moving and it would transition to another shot, but it was always done well. The match cutting was beautiful. And so, I mean, just all of these elements added together, and I can literally talk for days and days and days about this movie. I mean, if you want to, I can. Ask me questions, and I'll do a follow-up to this. If you want me to, if I didn't address anything in this review, send me follow-up questions, and I will be happy to do a follow-up review. I mean, I love this movie. I can't recommend this film enough. And if you haven't seen it, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. You need to go out and support it. If you're out there where maybe they you know, you normally avoid Tamil films, if you're like used to Hindi cinema or whatever, fucking go watch this film. Go watch this film right now. I just can't recommend it enough. I genuinely can't recommend it enough, and it's hard for me to compare it to anything. I mean, it kind of reminded me of Delhi Belly a little bit, but even Delhi Belly had its moments of like obscurity. This film didn't really have that many moments of like over the topness. I mean, even the alien moment was handled well, I personally feel like. And so it was just a very mature film, no hand holding. And if I had to put a score on this, perfect 10 out of 10, but I'm sure you guys would have guessed that by now because I really didn't have anything negative to say about it. I mean, even the runtime, the 3-hour runtime, it flew right by. I was with it. I was almost like I was watching a TV series, which is actually a really good thing. I mean, because I wanted to see more of these other situations involved. Like, I'd love to watch a sequel to this, even though I would hate if a sequel came out, because this was a contained film that just existed on its own. It doesn't need a fucking sequel. But, you know, the fact that I just love, I love the director's work. I love it. Kudos to all the writers. I know there was multiple writers. It wasn't just him, but, you know, kudos to the whole team, the cinematographer, the actors, just everybody. Hats off to everybody. Truly, 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 truly the best film this weekend. I watched Jung Lee. I watched this. I watched Notebook. This film shits on all the rest. Right now, my best film of 2019. I think I said 2018 earlier, but fuck, I don't even know what year it is, I guess. Best film. As a matter of fact, honestly, this is better than anything I watched last year too. By far. By far. So, if that doesn't mean anything to you guys, I don't know what else will, but please go watch this film. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys felt about the film. I'm always curious to hear about it and hear you guys talk about this film. Let's start a conversation. Let's continue this conversation. Like I said, if you have any additional questions you'd like me to answer about this film, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. And then, like I said, I'll do a follow-up review. I'm going to try to get Gian to watch this film, but it's going to be really tough. It's only playing in like 3 or 4 cinemas in Los Angeles, and I had to drive a long way, which is even farther than where he lives. But 10 out of 10 for me. A perfect film. I wouldn't touch a damn thing about this film. I fucking love it. Thank you to all you guys who recommended it. And I apologize right now. I apologize to all those that I ignored about reaction to this trailer. You guys were all fucking right, and you nailed it. And kudos to you guys. But anyway, that'll do it for this one. Deuces.